the SM Media Podcast Network.
Hi folks, and welcome to a special episode of SM Media's Countdown to Cheltenham 2026, where we take a look at the Dublin Racing Festival that is coming up this weekend. We've got 8 Grade 1s to look at and some other races where hopefully we will find some winners. I am Scott McPike. It's always a pleasure to be your host, and it's a delight to be joined by from the Scottish Daily Mail, Callum McClurkin. Callum, this is always one of the best meetings of the year. How much are we looking forward to it, and have you got your armbands?
Yeah, fantastic. Yeah, I don't need them. It drains wonderfully, doesn't it? So we've been told, we've seen it. It's kind of an underwater city of discovery is now clearly visible for all to see. So, people that were holding off going over, I think, are now booking their tickets again. Really, aren't they? So, it's good. I personally love it because it helps us because I really enjoy going Musselburgh as well, and it just dovetails wonderfully in between. So you can watch the kind of good stuff and then the great stuff in between it. But yeah, it's going to reveal it feels like a kind of weekend that becomes more and more significant every year in the build up to Cheltenham.
Yeah, what we're going to do is we're going to preview the 4 Grade 1s on Saturday and then kind of quickly look at the other 3 races on Saturday, then 4 Grade 1s on Sunday, and quickly look at the other 4. Then we'll do our best bets at the end of the show. Just in terms of the kind of Dublin Racing Festival in recent years towards Cheltenham, Callum, like for people who maybe haven't watched before, how important is this meeting in terms of festival clues?
Particularly with Willie Mullins' dominance of Cheltenham now, this is kind of the litmus test for those horses, really. You only had to look at Kopek de Board's unbelievable performance in this last year as a kind of that couldn't be beaten in the Supreme kind of thing. You've seen devastating like Margeborough, Monkfish, you've seen really top class at Galopin des Champs, top class performances here that are consistently backed up from top notchers. State Man, it was quite relevant. Lossiemouth done it. It's just big races that'll have big implications, and even handicaps as well. There's going to be quite a few that are going to be laid out for that. So yeah, it's very, very difficult to kind of underestimate its significance.
Right, well, let's get straight into previewing the racing over the weekend. We'll start with the opening race on Saturday, which is the Nathaniel, Lacy and partner Solicitors at Novice's Hurdle, over 2 mile and 6 furlongs, obviously won last year by Final Demand. And we have a Willie Mullins short price favourite, which could be a theme over the weekend. Dr. Steinberg is even money. We've got a few Gordon Elliott horses down below, Santos Sospa, Kazansky and Skylight Hustle. Love Me Tender, Tackle Tommy Woo Woo is in here around about the kind of 10-1 bracket and 16-1 bar. Callum, probably the horse that has done the most without really been seen over the past couple of months is Dr. Steinberg. He was 2-1, I think, round about maybe 4 days ago, the last time I really looked at this market. He's now even money. His form's been given a boost. Is he in the bracket where you think he's there's 5-1 kicking about for Albert Bartlett for him. Is he there? Is that a fair assessment of him based on what he's done?
No, he's there because he sets a kind of very tentative standard of a novice hurling picture, particularly stayers, that's not really fully formed yet. His form's been boosted by one piece of form with the Devil You Know coming out, winning at Doncaster. Look, all right, did it quite well, but the race kind of fell apart to a degree when they misjudged the pace, and he's kind of came up from the back and definitely picked up the pieces. But this was a horse that was he's comprehensively put in his place at Galway once, and then came out and it has been a bit of a revelation over hurdles. But he's only 2 runs over hurdles, shed his maiden. He went off, he beat Frankie John, not bad form. He can't dance. Wasn't great that day. The 2 Elliott horses of the last day that he ran against bombed out a little bit. So I don't think we've kind of really felt like he could come up and win this, and he's a default favourite here, really, because it's a pretty weak heat with no kind of proven graded form against them. And that Navan race normally works out quite well, but it was a funny year because it's only 4 runners.
Mm-hmm.
He's won it. The main market rival, I think, did something to its leg and was out, so and had made a major excuse. And that Golden Elite horse was favourite that day, so he kind of capitalised on that. I think it's pretty suspect form. The 2 elite horses, I mean, Kazansky, totally different profiles, proven stay on bad ground, which at the moment you need. Might have a bit to find, but could step up there. Santos Suspire might have a bit more class, but needs to prove that it can get the trip. If Love Me Tender runs, kind of waiting that, didn't really run. Had a chance to kind of run, didn't they, in January, and didn't earlier in the season. So
didn't run too badly in the Grade One.
Ran all right in third.
Christmas, didn't jump well enough though, didn't his jumping let him down badly.
Third that would have definitely been fourth, and she was slightly hampered, but it wasn't fluent, and it suggested that this kind of step up and trip is what the horseman needs. So it might improve for that. Not out of it each way, and then you've got kind of your Cornelite horses that are trying to force their way into this. Jalan Dudere, Risk Away, Calypso Chances are all of a squeak to kind of varying degrees. I mean, I thought Risk Away was the most kind of interesting one. I mean, I thought that Limerick effort in a kind of weird conditions race behind Stormheart. Stormheart's very well fancied for all these kind of warm handicaps off pretty stiff marks. The fact that it was a 5 to 6 odds on favourite was turned over, I think that was as bad effort as it looks. Like the open company coming back here. So I thought out of the kind of Gigginstown elite lot, I thought that was the one that was the most interesting. But it's a market that will form when Jack Kenny decides who get on. Sheldon, Dodori, another that wants up and trip, but doesn't really convince at all with his finishing effort at the moment. I think they're going to bypass it with Skylight Hustle, aren't they? So yeah, an opening race where I'm not really sure where we're going, but if you're in your Willie Mullins multiples for the weekend, I wouldn't be putting this fella in.
No, I wouldn't either. And again, I think it is just basic form. I think what he's done is that he hasn't, as you say, blotted his copybook in terms of he's won both hurdle races. He hasn't perhaps needed the run to then go on and win like a lot of Willies have, and his form's been frank. Now, what I will just say about this race is, in terms of a winning trial for the festival, it doesn't work out very well. The last horse to actually win this race was Let's Dance before it became a 2 mile 6 race, and she went on to win a pretty weak mare's Novice's hurdle. Just some of the horses that have won this over the past few years. Dancing City went close in a battle at Final Demand last year. Manila Kakuna, Guy Adamanil. It's the horses go on and run well. I just don't necessarily think they go on and win at Cheltenham.
Yeah, so, but again, no, I mean, we're looking elsewhere and thinking, where else are these horses going to come from at the moment? I mean, there's not a lot of outstanding candidates, hence why I think Dr. Steinberg is short for this and short for the Bartlett, really. And I think a couple of nice kind of outsiders have gone by the wayside already. The British form's been badly let down the last couple of weeks. Should kind of concern a little bit. So yeah, I mean, you can see why he's there, but he's not one that can get overly enthused about, and he does what he does. He could still improve. He sets a standard, but it's a pretty low bar.
Yeah, I mean, he could just win it. It could just be a class apart. Couple of dangers, though. I do think Santos Sospir, I do think stepping up and trip is the right move. Bit of an interesting journey they've taken with this horse, where they went to the Munster Hurdle at the start of January. Would he have won if Charles stayed in his feet? That's all for debate. I think, though, he was doing well enough at the line. I think he's a pretty decent operator. I think going up and trip is the right move. Again, depends on what Jack Kennedy rides. Going left-handed will suit Santos Sospir. So I do think he's an alternative there. Skylight Hustle, I think it would be madness if they did go here. I don't think they are going to. I don't think this is what he needs if he is a proper Turners player.
He'd be favourite if he ran here.
Yeah, that's what I think as well. I don't think he will go. Jalan Dudere, I think, will get the trip. I think he is. I remember when he finished third in the bumper.
He's been backed as if he's going to be their kind of one of their main ones. But I mean, I didn't like what I saw the last day. I thought he could have hung in behind and every chance. And I think he's a bit of a wronging, to be honest.
It was 10-1 favourite for the Bartlett, but the year after he won the champion bumper when the market first came out. So I do think there is a bit of potential there. It's just, is he an honest enough horse? And I do think with you, Risk Away, there are a few alternatives here. I'm not going to lay Dr. Steinberg, but I think Santos Sospir and Jalan Dudere are potential players to have, and again, you probably are going to get 3 places, so hopefully the prices kind of stay like that. And if you want to take them on, I think there are alternatives.
Yeah, I think Kazansky and Riskaway are interesting enough each way against him. I'm mindful though, I mean, this is kind of Willie Mullins' playground. They're obviously going to come short. There's improvement that's anticipated in the top races, and Gordon Elliott is 4 for 60.
Yes.
With a run to form percentage of 40%, and it's a meeting. Okay, he's targeting it more or less because he's in the, well, for the moment he's in the kind of trainers title conversation. Are they going to run as well as they are? This is the kind of time of year when people expect Mullins horses to just kind of go and stamp their authority in things and improve passing and really show their true form now, while maybe the Elliott contingent kind of more scattergun and maybe show their hand a little bit. If anything wins from this at Cheltenham, you might be looking Martin Pipe territory.
Maybe, yeah. Well, let's get into the Grade 1 Juvenile hurdle at 150. We have Narciso Haas at 8 to 11, Monge 2 3 to 1. Obviously, they'll have a rematch. They faced each other at Fairyhouse, and Monge 2 came out on top. Selma Davari in here at 10 to 1, looks to be on debut for Willie Mullins and the Richies. Highland Crystal, Bertutea, Immediate Effect, he likes a Barbizon, North Shore, and Adrienne. Narciso Haas versus Monge 2. I think it is just a question of, has Narciso Haas improved past Monge 2, or can she reverse the form? I think she's only getting £5 here.
Yeah, getting the usual kind of mares allowance here. And managed to beat Narciso Haas last time and is unbeaten. Didn't take the chance at Christmas. But I mean, from that run, I would expect Narciso Haas to improve a lot, and he did. And I thought he'd improve past her. And I think he's probably going to uphold the form here. And he sets an obvious standard for the division. I think it's only going to harden here. 46, people might swerve it. Interesting thing is now that Highland Crystal might have to run here as well. After this in Doncaster, probably get a run, maybe for a Fred Winter or something like that. But yeah, I think Selma de Vary is an interesting entry.
Yes.
Barbizon can run a bit better, but I'd be pretty surprised if Narciso has to beat. Well, they want to play at 46. I'm not sure, but I do think he'd win. But the second best horse is definitely here, and is a 1-2 in the juvenile market. I think by some way, you've got Proactive in there. The Irish have a decent hand in it already, but it's not a fully developed kind of triumph market. There's not really a lot of leading contenders there at the moment that are worth speaking of. So I think Narciso Haas might go and win again here and frighten even more off ahead of Cheltenham. So yeah, I expect him to get it done with fairly minimal fuss.
Yeah, I think he'll win. I think he improved quite a fair bit for his run. Again, a lot of Willies did need the run second time out, and they got it. Monge 2, I wasn't overly impressed with her at Down Royal. I expected a bit more, and I think she was better prepped for the day at Fairyhouse. And I would expect Narciso Haas to reverse the form. Selma Davari is particularly interesting, and I think it shows again Willie Mullins. I don't think Willie Mullins is looking at it going, I'm going to throw him in the Boodles or the Fred Winter. I don't think he cares. I don't think he's looking at this going, people are saying, he needs another run. I think he's got 3 runs over hurdles and he won a conditions race at Auteuil. But again, he's not a novice, but I wouldn't be necessarily surprised if he's a bit better than 10 to 1. I don't think he'll get to the front 2, but he might be a decent horse. Bertutea interests me. I thought he was very good at Limerick in Boxing Day, and I think there is a decent horse there. Whether the plan is for maybe him to get a mark for the Boodles, but I do think he's a potential each way player here. So I think Narciso Haas for me and Bertutea each way. I think is what I'm going to play here.
Yeah, I mean, I think I'll struggle to have a bet in this, to be honest. I mean, he definitely handled the background quite well at Limerick. I think he'd need another run to qualify for the Boodles. But yeah, I mean, you can't rule any of these. I mean, there's so little to go on. They could come out from anywhere. I mean, Poneros won it last year and not even having a run, and then we've got a rule in. So I mean, if you're parachuting if Willie Mullins is parachuting any horse in here, it's going to be significant for one reason or the other. It might not be
Well,
for
he
the
ran
day.
match brand this, and
Yeah,
like,
and he ran an absolute screamer. And he was always wanting to take out going into Cheltenham if he got his ground and did so. Big improvers though. I mean, Cardi still won it in was second. So in Vauban, the list is endless. Lost was unlucky and won. So I mean, there's definitely Narcissus is going to be the obvious one. And yeah, I mean, there's nibbles for Bear too. I mean, I'd imagine that Selma Devari, I'd imagine Paul Town would just still pick that. But yeah, it's juveniles that we've barely seen. So I mean, you can't be too dismissive of any of them. Again, I'm not betting this till I see a clearer picture, but I'd expect the favourite to win. I suppose he'd probably go into your Willie Mullins Grade 1 multis, I think, if you just leave him there.
okay, we'll go to the Irish Arkle at 255. Bit of a weird picture as we'll get into. Best odds Romeo Coolio 64, Copet de Board 7-4, Kyrgyz 7-2, Irish Panther 13-2, and you get down Mexico Way 33s. Calaconte's probably going elsewhere. It's been a case of will Copet de Board run? Is he fit? Is he not? Is Romeo Coolio going to go here or go to the 2 mile 5 race? I think ground's dictating with both. I kind of don't know where to go here because I think if Copet de Board's fit, even in soft ground, I think he'd have too much pace for Romeo Coolio. But what Copet de Board shows up?
Yeah, I mean, to me, the setback of Copet de Board has been very well documented. He was going to miss Christmas with a slight setback. He was going to be targeted for this. And he's in no kind of real subsequent issue. To me, I mean, it's been a
No.
bit uncertain I mean, slightly uncertain about the kind of way of Willie or wanting exchanges, but I don't think that was really based on much. Romeo Coolio hardening for here, they have to really in the ground. I know
They have
for a
to go
home
here,
drain,
yeah.
but they have to go here now. There's going to be some definitely some element of cut in it, particularly on Saturday, and I don't think all the rain's gone yet, so it'll definitely keep it honest. So I think they have to go here. Pulled out the fire well last day. But this will be a bit tougher now, and for all the love of the Arkle meeting here, I don't really get why Kopech the board is as big as he is, and I think he's now almost the bet here by default
Yeah, I think so.
because I think a lot of people are wanting to back Romeo Coolio in a way to get a price against Kopech the board, who'd be
Yes,
anticipated favourite. And
100%.
now that it's flipped, I think a lot of people aren't really making that readjustment yet. I mean, Romeo Coolio, I think, it's maybe now done more in the form book now, but because he ran in graded races. We don't really know how Kopech the board, how good he is. I thought he did a lot quite well in his beginner's debut. He was a bit raw, but he does look a bit of a machine, this horse, when he gets it all right. And we know he loves the place. I mean, his performance in this time last year was absolutely outstanding. I know lots over hurdles didn't give him respect, but the way he jumped fences, I think he respected him a little bit more. I think Cargis has got not much chance in this. I don't think she's a natural chaser, in my
Well,
opinion.
I had a wee theory I was going to point to you.
And I think at the prices now, the ones I'm seeing in call, for instance, like 10 to 11 Romeo Coolio, 74 Kopech the board, I would probably be in the Kopech the board camp because, again, I think natural pace could put Romeo Coolio under pressure that we saw in, no disrespect to Irish Panther, but you think he'd be a bit of a lesser horse than Kopech the board.
Yeah.
And I think you can see Kopech the board maybe turning the screw. But again, you've got to think, is he fully on it? And Romeo Coolio, he is a very efficient jumper, but I don't see him. I don't see him leading Kopech the board. So how's he going to kind of force a mistake? I think you're kind of relying a little bit on Kopech the board to maybe miss a couple and give you a chance to get back into it and maybe emptying a little bit. But the way he races, the way he pours it on, and I think it'd be very difficult to kind of beat. I mean, he's kind of the way a novice runs around Leopardstown. I think he could be pretty monstrous.
Yeah.
But it's just that doubt of how big, how important's that missed run that he had. And to me, he's not been off schedule at any point. And I think it's a race that the market's obviously going to reveal a lot more beforehand because it's been volatile on the run up. So it's going to be significant how it plays out on the day. But you could actually see him going off joint favourites with Cargill's probably close in behind, but maybe Irish Panther's been a little bit disrespected as well. But he likes to go on with it as well, so
Yeah.
there might be even more of a kind of pace burn up. And Cargill's is quick. It might be more of a kind of struggle early doors for Roman Kalu, who I think has got to be remembered had a hard race at Christmas time to get up and win that. That might have left its mark as well. And the Elliott Yard have had a slight downturn in form after a really red hot start with them, and they're definitely in savage form over Christmas. So I'd be equally as mindful as that as Kopek de Boer's break. And yeah, I'd be in the KDB camp.
I think I would be too, and I just think at some point in the race, I don't think like heavy. If it is heavy ground, I don't think it is going to be. But if it is soft ground, I still think Kopek de Boer will do Romeo Coolio for a bit of toe.
Be absolutely fine that ground.
Yeah,
It'd be fine.
I've got a wee bit of a theory on Kyrgyz. Could Kyrgyz hold the aces for Lossiemouth to go champion hurdle? Now, hear me out here. I don't at any point think Kyrgyz is a natural 2.5 miler, but if she is outclassed here, could they reroute her? Because they've kept her in the Mayor's Hurdle. Could they reroute her to that, and then that leaves the door open for Lossiemouth to go champion if she wins the Irish champion? It's a wee bit of a mad theory, but I
No,
just
because
don't see what else.
I think she's a patent non-stayer. I think if they're going to do that, they'd have to do it with Jade de Grugy.
Well, I just think as well. I just don't think she's a natural chaser. I don't think she's going to be good enough for this. And I don't see her going to a 2.5 mile mare's chase if they don't think she. I think this is the only option for her is to go Arkle, and I think she would need to get very close to the top two to have any chance of going for an Arkle. I've seen quotes for 7-1. Look, I wouldn't be backing her for that at all at the moment, just because I think she's potentially going to
She's
get
not even been
outclassed.
tried at 2.5 at all. And
No.
she's 13 races under rules. She hasn't even been tried at 2.5. And she got outstayed in Triumph. I mean, she was absolutely nailed on to win a County Hurdle where she showed really good speed
Mm-hmm.
in a race that had a Breeders' Cup horse in it, didn't it? So I mean, she's fast, and I think they have to. I think they have to go down this route now. Personally, albeit naturally she was pretty good to beat lovely hurling
Mm-hmm.
in decent ground. So I just don't think she's at this level of two really, really, really good smart novices against her. I think she's got a bit to find, even with the mayor's allowance and that. But I think after what she did the last day, and I think the fact that I think she's a bang 2 miler, and I think the fact that Cheltenham, the old course there would be much more emphasis on speed rather than this. I think she's actually got more of a chance in an Arkle than this.
Okay.
I think you've got to kind of now commit to this route, and Jade de Grugy would be the one if they had to revert back. But I just don't really see any kind of contingency planning for that at the moment.
Okay, well, let's get into the Irish Gold Cup at 3:30. Galloping Deschamps is 6-4 to win his third Irish Gold Cup. Affordale Fury obviously beat him at Christmas. He's 8-1 along with Fat to File and Horticalua. I know the way you're thinking, and Spindleberry at 10-1 and 14-1 bar. Gaelic Warrior is here at 16-1. There was a wee bit of rumour that he might be going here. I think he moved a wee bit in the exchanges, but he's back out to round about 16s and different kind of betting areas. Do I think Gaelic Warrior's going to go? I'm just assuming, just based on the market. He wouldn't be 16-1 if he was, surely.
Leopardstown, no chance.
Nah.
I'll be
Where
very
did he go?
surprised.
Because
Very
you'd imagine
surprised.
they want to get a run in.
Don't go anywhere. I'll just keep him away.
Okay. Callum, Galloping Deschamps, I'm a bit torn here because I think there would be a reaction similar to Faugheen if he won here, but I also think 6-4, based on what's in behind, is maybe a little bit short. Where are you with him?
Yeah, there's a big field in behind here, and he was heavily back the first day when he was third, and I think he'll probably find it hard to get to the front here with Oti Kalur being in there. Affordale Fury's going to try and do the same thing, won't he? And others would like to go forward, maybe fast or slow, try and be a bit handier. Yeah, there's plenty of depth to this, but I think if he naturally comes on from that and the way he ran, I just think he kind of just get caught out for fitness a little bit. The grounds can probably be a bit softer in his favour. I think he could win this. I definitely think he can. I definitely wouldn't rule out backing him. I think odds against is all right. No, he's 10 getting long in the tooth, but remember this will be his second run, so he'd be peaking and he's always needed his first run in his career. And I thought it was a perfectly satisfactory reappearance.
This has been their target. This has been where they.
This has been the target, isn't it? Apart from obviously Cheltenham, instead of the Leopardstown Christmas Irish double, it's definitely if we want him to peak for 2 races this year, it's this and then into Cheltenham.
Yes.
So I mean, this is it, and it's consistent with what Willie Mullins' big guns are doing, isn't it? The yard's in better nick. Fitness-wise, he should be in better nick, and we know absolutely loves the place and grounds in his favour. So there's a lot going his way here, but unlike previous years here, where maybe there's only like 6 or 7 that kind of turn up here, you might get a lot more than that, and it might be hard for him to kind of go out there and be handy and dominate. The kind of multiple horses kind of had a little go of him the last day, and it kind of caught him out slightly as much as kind of fitness did. So I think that's a doubt, and the fact that he's a year older, he's 10 now, and it's hard to peak. This is maybe kind of his last kind of golden year at the top, and horses are kind of coming in, closing the gap a little bit. Whether he's going backwards or they're improving, it's open to debate. So we get him. In fact, to Phil is pretty high up in the betting, suggesting that they might run.
He'll just do what he does, doesn't he? He'll just finish fourth and
not stay after having 2 very hard races.
Yeah,
it's an interesting one. I mean, I don't think he'd been many people's radar, but he has a course and distance, whether not an open level, but he is. I mean, shown hints of stamina, and I think the Kempton. I think the kind of sharp nature of Kempton kind of caught him out a little bit more than anything else, and he wasn't beaten that far, but he was kind of just left behind from a bad position, and he was never really travelling that day. So if he's over that and forgiven it, I wouldn't entirely rule him out, but he'll probably have to come from the back. Horticolor, I think, needs a bit to find here, but as a pace angle, because he can be prominent, as is Affordale Fury, who I think was primed for the last day.
Yeah.
It might be difficult to back that up. Spindleberry's a fascinating runner.
Very much so.
Bit to find, but massively in the upgrade. Winning machine, £7. Shapes as if you get the trip. Interesting rise. I mean, I'd imagine Danny Mullins would ride him in on Doncaster, isn't he? So
yeah,
I could see that happening. I know the way you're thinking.
What price will he go off?
I mean, I think 10 to 1 at the moment. I can see him being clipped into maybe 6s or something like that, and run with credit maybe into a place, like kind of maybe shape what he did last year. I think if that's the way they're kind of bringing him on.
If you're Mark Walsh, who do you ride here? Factifiler, I know the way you're thinking.
I think it's impossible to get off Gold Cup winners.
Okay, so who rides Factifile? There's so many questions. Like, again, because there's so much depth, I just think there's a lot of questions here. Because I was thinking, and I didn't know what you thought about this. I don't know what the fitness of Harry Cobden is, but could he come over for a ride?
Yeah, I think it was kind of touch and go, but I mean, it's and it's a JP thing. It could be anybody really at this stage, but it's hard to get off Gold Cup winners, I think. And the thing is, though, the thing is slightly against him here is that he's probably going to encounter soft ground. I do think if you're an archetypal kind of spring horse as this fella is, you'd want better ground, and better ground was kind of a source improvement in the Gold Cup. So I think that's against him in terms of the favourite. So I think that's why I'm a bit more sweet and galloping Deschamps than him. I am Maximus as well.
Yes.
I mean, Brian Hayes probably picked that up and stick with him, but I mean, he's shown his true hand, and he's banged there in figures, and he wouldn't have been out of place to Gold Cup last year in that form, and he had the brilliant run round the outside. He likes the place. Grange Clear West was second this last year, could pop up again if he steps forward. Maybe a bit of a tall order, but a bit near. And then you've got last year's Brown Advisory winner at 40s, expecting somebody to do anything. The Stella Story, bit limited, but slow grounds in his favour. Perhaps Jack Kane will be hoping that Gornellic doesn't roll the risk with his 2 outsiders and
pick up the riding.
Tries to get on a kind of like Spillane Tower spare kind of thing there, really. and Monty Starr might run, so it might rule out Darrell Keefe, for instance. So Martin Brazel, faster slow, maybe JJ Slevin. So Sean Flanagan might pick up. You can go around the houses with it, and you can go around the houses with this race until you see final declarations. But I think Gallop and Deschamps a justifiable, solid favourite. I really do, and I can see him kind of. This could be a more attritional race, softer ground, get to the front, be handier, just be maybe a bit forward, and I can see him digging it out.
I would love to see him win. Again, I just think it's a deep race. That if there is alternatives, you can look at. Spindleberry really interests me here because I do think she'll get the trip. She will need to improve, but again, she's capable. I think I wouldn't be necessarily worried if she has a tough race here because I think the Mare's Chase could be quite a kind of match race between her and Dino Blue. To be honest, I think Gallop and Deschamps from a heart ruling head point of view, but I just think that maybe on the day I maybe look at Spindleberry each way and maybe see if there's other alternatives. But I would love to see Gallop and Deschamps win. Any other best bets for Saturday before we move on to Sunday? You've got the handicap hurdle over 3 miles at 225, which is obviously quite an interesting race. At 405, you've got a handicap chase over 2 miles, which is Western Diego. The likes of like Jacob's Ladders in here as well, and then you've got the Grade 2 bumper at 440, where a lot of people seem to be getting onto the Martin Brazel horse here. It's only a game who I think was tipped up by Johnny Deneen, I think this week.
The 20s, yeah. I'll just go through what I kind of shortlisted. Yeah. I think dipped in Moonlight in the first handicap, 225, 3 miler. It'd be interesting. Emmett Mullins right at the bottom of the weights. Won it last year. This kind of similar type, But Wendrock and Son of Anarchy for Elliott, I think, are on the short list there. As kind of major eye catchers. The bumper, I wouldn't have any sort of opinion on. The fact that Elliott Mullins isn't running one is quite interesting.
Bizarre,
The 2 handicap chase, yes, could damn. I think it probably wouldn't be better ground than this. Henry de Bromhead this time of the season. I think that's probably more interesting. The Grand Daniel, Western Diego still might be well in. Ballysax Hank was tentatively interesting there. And PNDR won it last year at 20s. It's 20s this time, not massively higher in the weights this time. Paul Nolan's Yarder in good nick. I'd imagine that this has been the work back route since winning this last year. We won it off 128, I think it's just a little bit higher. I don't see it being a strong enough renewal. Yeah, £6 higher. Yeah, I think that's overpriced at 20, 25 to 1. I think that's interesting each way.
Okay, well, let's get into Sunday. We've got the Ladbrokes Novices Chase. Final demand here is in here at 1 to 2. Cade Dothy 13 to 2. Western Fold 10s. Kitzbühel, Jimmy DeSoy likely potentially going elsewhere. Romeo Coolio's probably going Arkle. It looks to be final demands race. Callum, is it? I think he's got a class edge. He should win. He's ahead on. He's only £1 ahead of Western Fold, but I think he's got a lot more potential. Would this worry you if this is a bit of a grind with Cheltenham in mind? Because I remember Monkfish. Remember very specifically you saying Monkfish put in an amazing performance here, but he did make hard work of it then after at Cheltenham. So does that happen if this is heavy ground?
Can happen. Gallop and win this, go the 2.5 mile route. Ballyburn not firing in the 3 mile after winning this. Factify a little bit different, maintained it 4 to 11. Gets short, but I mean Cade Dothy's going to be second favourite. It's £10 to find it. I think it might be a bit closer than that, personally. But I've seen that horse kind of historical problems a little bit before. So not sure. Western Fold, I wouldn't be interested in him.
They clearly think he's good though, because they threw him in
as
good Royal. Yeah,
he is good 157, but it's the ground that worries me because he's much better ground, I think. Yes. And he's gone through the ranks. He's got experience, but all his best form is in yielding, good to soft, good ground. Won the Galway Plate on really quick ground.
Yeah, the gold. Yeah,
Ballingrove quick ground, Tipperary quick ground. Clonmel quick ground, he was second, but he'd beaten like handicaps and Navan off 136. I mean, at Ayr, he didn't travel a yard off 138 on soft ground. Yes. It was bottomless, and it was the ground that beat him, without a doubt. So he maybe even get back a little bit with those kind of summer targets in mind. But I just do think he's a good ground horse, and I just don't think this is his time of year. Hence why he's priced like that. So even though in ratings he could make a case from it, I think he's actually got no chance here. And the ones in behind are going to go elsewhere or not turn up. Jimmy DeSoy is impossible to trust after the last day. Even if he does come up here, and I think he's priced to suggest that he might not. So it's between Final Demand and Kate Dorothy. I mean, you could see 3 or 4 just turn up here, to be honest. Gold Dancer and Roushmount might just go for the sake of it. But I don't think Final Demand was impressive at Limerick. But he didn't have a hard time with things. He was just tossing about up front. The main rival didn't get into it in Jimmy DeSoy, and he had a comfortable time, so he's going to be relatively fresh. He looks like he's got enormous potential to come, and you can see why he's priced defensively here. I don't think he'll get a hard time here either. He's stablemate in behind Kate Dorothy. Might make a race of it and run well, because I thought he was quite quietly impressive the last day when asked a question with Mark Walsh in the back of the second last. I thought he was pretty good. But this is a step up taking on Final Demand, and with a favourite that's holding all the aces and still has more to offer here. And I don't think you'll see a kind of wow performance where they'll win by that far in Monkfish. I think they'll be a bit mindful of that perhaps.
Yeah.
And it might be easy enough where you don't need to put in a big wow performance. And I think that's kind of what he's doing really. And the hill at Cheltenham might be a doubt. It'll definitely be a tougher race because there are horses in here that are bypassing this to take him on marks. That's the main thing. So
I think it would have been interesting if it was good ground, if Romeo Coolio did go here. I think it would have been a test, but I think I'm kind of with you. I hope he doesn't get too much of a hard time of things when you've got kind of Cheltenham in mind. 140 at Leopardstown is the Tattersalls Island Novices Hurdle. Willie Mullins has won the last 7 renewals. He doesn't have the market leader here. Talk the Talk would have definitely won the Grade 1 at Leopardstown at Christmas. Is 2-1 favourite here. There's been a lot of talk and a lot of market moves on a horse, King Rascal Grey Callum at 3-1 for Willie Mullins, Ballyfadge at 4-1. The Reverend and Blake are in here as well, and then 20-1 Bar. I feel bad not talking about the favourite first, but King Rascal Grey has moved a lot in the past few days now. Is this just a case of his form is getting a massive improvement with the likes of Shuttle Diplomacy and the Cromwell horse that beat Dr. Duminil, or are people cottoning on that he might be the Willie Mullins number 1?
Bit of both. I mean, it seems definitely seemed to be Paul Tennant's pick. I mean, I wrote a piece at the paper at the start of the week, and Reverend King Rascal Grey couldn't be split at 5-1 each. Now it's 5-2, 9-1. So, and that's a big disparity. It's a disparity though that's not been replicated in the Supreme markets yet.
Yes, I've seen that. Yeah, 16s you can still get.
So while he's being bet as if he could win this, he's not being bet as if he could beat an Old Park Star or something like that. So, and I think the ground is probably more in his favour than the next flat horse in the Reverend.
I think 2 mile 3. I think he won at Limerick.
The Reverend can handle it, but he was getting weight that day. It's definitely not impressive form, and it is like the Reverend's form, and it's a long way behind a drifting favourite who's miles clear on the figures, even though has jumping issues, and the ground would be a question mark for him as well. Is his jumping going to get worse and by the ground? So while I think he's maybe getting out to, I mean, there's a time where you think this is going to go off. You'd be lucky to get 11-10. He'd be lucky maybe at this rate if Talk goes off favourite. That's the way it's kind of turned round a little bit. But it's an interesting race.
I think Ballyfadge maybe going a bit under the radar here because his form got a leader. Dally obviously didn't have much to beat the other day, but certainly franked that form by winning as well as it. I thought Ballyfadge did it very well when he beat him at Leopardstown. Again, like another horse that I think goes well in soft ground. Won a 2 mile maiden hurdle on soft ground, beating Rejujo Mac back at Punchestown. It was a bumper. Like, I think that's a very, very interesting race. I don't think it's just a case of what it's been in last year's where Willie Mullins has got the number one point and shoot. I think that's a very open Grade 1, and ground could play a huge part here.
Yeah, and ground will help Ballyfad, I think. I mean, I think when he won, he made all had the run of it, and it was a performance like a lot of these novices was like, yeah, fair enough. I don't think you're going to win a Supreme or get anywhere close to it, and I think he needs further. I wasn't impressed, but I mean, the Reverend I don't think was an impressive figure. I don't think King Rascal was an impressive figure. I think they're all kind of they're they're there on potential. And Talk's the one that's got graded form, but it's looking a bit more suspect than it was, and his jumping is an issue. And this ground, I don't think will play his strength, so you've got that to kind of weigh up. But what he's achieved is well clear of the three in the market that are narrowing up against him, mainly because we're expecting much bigger. I think the Reverence equally as interesting as King Rascal Grey, even despite these kind of setbacks. He might not get the assistance of Townend, but we've seen him pick wrong before in this when Facile Vega made the mess of it and LIT Top won it. It's a race where you just focus on the big trainers and expect, well, surely they're going to come to the fore here now. But they do have a lot to find. They may well do so, particularly the Willie Mullins pair. But there's not as much reason as King Rascal Grey could be the one. The market says it could be the one, but Ludovine Infant could be the one just on a bad day at Christmas.
Yeah.
Davy Crockett could be the one who's not just ran in 130 days. The Reverend could be the one because I think an ex-flat horse he won what you want to see from a very high-class ex-flat horse is good jumping, and I think that was the thing that he demonstrated in debut at Cork. Yeah, it was a bad race, but his jumping technique couldn't really be faulted, and could be seen in a better light in a better race. So I mean, I would definitely, and even Cocktail Brute went the last day, but 50-1 for a horse that's rated 140 here, when I think nothing has ran to 140 whatsoever in this.
No.
I know there was a big issue. I think he might have bled the last day and things went wrong, but he was a really good price to win that. And if you just put a line through that Leopardstown Novice, the race at Skylight Hustle won, of course. I mean, he was 4-1.
I actually thought him and Blake were quite interesting here.
Yeah, and Blake's place in the Royal Bond, hasn't he?
Second behind Cocktail Brute, yeah.
It's a bit of graded form there. I think the no media article, but he bled through the nose, Danny Gilligan, but he was 41 that day.
Mm-hmm.
The talk was 9-2. Skylight Hustle 3-1 favourite. Love Me Tender 41. That it's a bit like this race again. Where it's much of a muchness. It's a mess. The market can't really settle on anything, and you can kind of judge it by its cover. But I mean, Cocktail Brute beat Blake in the Royal Bond, and he made all, and it wasn't impressive. But the Passing Waves came out and won subsequently in third. I think Game Ball's a decent horse. It was beaten 8 and a bit in fourth.
Mm-hmm.
And at the time, you're thinking that's not great form either. It's kind of the way I pinned things down. It's mid 130s, but I think top to top was mid to high 130s for me. And I think the Reverend King Rascal Grey and these horses that are in there, even Ballyfad, I think they've barely done 120 on the clock in their maidens, And while they can definitely improve a stone and more to get there, they still need to do it. So I think there's various angles you can look at this race. I think the fact that the market's pointing the way King Rascal Grey is obviously significant. Can leave it behind, but he needs to. We're assuming all this Willie Mullins style improvement, but it needs to be stark improvement here to get into this picture, and that reflects in the Supreme Market because all these are pretty much 16-20 to 1+ now after what Old Park started.
Well, let's get into the Dublin Chase, Callum. I remember last week Barry Connell saying all Marine National has to do is get round. It turns out he might not even be going round, and it's left the market quite interesting. Masborough is 7-4 favourite. I just feel like it's like Al Pacino is just roping me back in. That's what it's like. Marine National's 2-1, Solness 7-2, Energamine 10-1. I want to back Masborough again.
Yeah, you just think the setup of the race is for him, really, isn't it? I mean, Marine National doubts it'll turn up because of the ground, bad ground. We know he's better on spring ground, and yeah, that talked up massively last week. Like Active Innocence was talked up last week before, and they don't run. You see this time and time again, and that's why you don't really read fully into this.
Do you think Marine National will run?
No,
Where did it go? Well,
they don't need to go anywhere. That's the thing. Just leave them, freshen them up. Better ground at Cheltenham. Fine. If it's bottomless ground, then that wouldn't bother them as well. I mean,
would you be confident with Marine National that it can go from Christmas to that without a run to Christmas to Cheltenham?
He did it in the Supreme. He won.
Mm.
A lot of people couldn't do it from the Royal Bond. That was November.
Mm-hmm.
That wouldn't harm me at all. This for what he says. This trainer knows his horse like the back of his hand. Like the time he ran, it was in February 2024 in the Irish Arkle, soft ground, Leopardstown, this time of year, and it went badly wrong at 47 favourite.
Yeah,
they don't want to replicate that.
No,
and he's not ran soft ground since.
No,
that's the softest ground he's encountered. So, I think he knows what he's doing here. I think that's exactly what he's going to do. I think they're probably going to duck it if it improves. As he said, if it's reasonable enough ground, then he'll take his chance. So it could dry out enough to good to soft where he takes his chance. But in the current state of play, you'd have to be doubtful, and that hence why he's that price.
It was soft ground the Supreme the year he won.
Yeah, that's a novice hurdler though. He's going to do that, isn't he?
Mm-hmm.
It's a totally different ball game.
Yeah.
That's before he did that in the Irish Arkle. At the moment, we're dealing with heavy, and he's been very insistent that since that's happened, he's a much better horse on spring fresh ground. And at least he's kind of, for all his kind of hyperbole, he's very consistent in what he says at the bottom line about his horse. So I mean, I think that's what he wants to do. And if he misses this, it wouldn't concern me at all. If Kopek the board didn't run, it wouldn't really concern me too much for the Arkle. Maybe in inexperienced grounds, but I mean, I think if you're skipping it, seeing the previous show in Post Twi, sometimes you more regrets running than not.
Yeah.
So particularly with conditions and in the form book over fences anyway suggests that you've been entitled to not run. So, and it's pointing in Maswell's direction. It was kind of did in Christmas time, but it's maybe a bit more favourable, softer ground. Maybe get a kind of better ride out wide that's more Leopardstown favourable. Maybe a bit more proactive on him. Maybe kind of change tactics a little bit too much, but in the ground, it's possibly going against Solness. Energy means 12. He'll probably go up there to soften Solness up, so he probably won't get a freebie. I found the 50. They were even thinking of going Red Mills with him.
Yeah.
Could only by night run all right here. If they go there,
very possibly, yeah.
It might only be like one of four that take a chance at the end of it. But yeah, it's aligning, isn't it, for Mas? But like it kind of aligns for some Willie Mullins horses down here. When they need to win and they want to win, usually this is the place that they get it. So
yeah, and last year's Arkle, he didn't jump very well, but had just so much in hand that he won it comfortably and went off 8 to 11.
He's jumped better at Leopardstown than most other venues, isn't he, in his career? Yeah. So you think that this is his bag, and there's going to be a bit of emphasis on Stalin as someone who thinks that he'd be better off 2.5. I think this definitely looks like his most suitable assignment of the season so far. He's going, for all the knocking of him, he's only been beaten a length here, there, and only backed out of it after his chance had gone when kind of squeezed out of it the last day. So yeah, he's there with a commit to anything in this race. Not yet. Obviously, Marine National is an important angle, regardless of whether he's going to go or not. The percentage call at the moment seems no. Particularly when you put a seed out there where you think, I'm actually going to think about doing this. They did it at Grey Dawning and Sub-Zero to a certain degree, where they did come out and say beforehand the build-up going, we might not take a chance here. We know what happened there.
Well, I kind of think Masborough is the one, but again, Marine National, if Marine National runs, it's going to be decent ground, and therefore it might change the occasion. if the ground was good last week, like when we were Marine Nationale, I thought was a really decent price in terms of what the circumstances were. If it was decent ground, I think now Masborough, the conditions look to be in his favour. Irish Champion Hurdle, the final Grade 1, Lossiemouth 5-4, Brighter Days Ahead 6-4. We've got Anzadam, El Fabiolo, Ballyburn, Ponyross, and Castledale Lad. We've got 4 Willie Mullins horses that aren't the favourite, who are all capable of potentially running to 160. Is this a case of this might be the deepest Irish Champion Hurdle we've seen in a long time if they all take their chance?
It's competitive. It's the deepest, but it's definitely competitive, and that's what makes it interesting. A bit like the Champion Hurdle market, where it's just crazy bonkers, and that's why it's getting so much traction, because it's a competitive event here. You know, it's not vintage, but in terms of performance levels, but you know, this is pretty good, and it's the top 2 in the market that are dominating again. You know, that are locking horns, and I think Lossiemouth might confirm the form herself. I thought she was always holding Brighter Days Ahead the last day. The thing is, Lossiemouth had a run, Yard put a bit in and out, but did have a run which was definitely favourable for excess stamina purposes, and Brighter Days Ahead was maybe ridden a little bit, just a little bit kind of conservatively in her first day out, in behind. I wonder if they're going to revert to what they did when she kind of absolutely bossed it, when she had like winter fog and things like that, and drive straight man on the ground, be hard fit here and go from the front and reverse tactics and blow it apart.
I think they would need to do that.
I think that's what they might be inclined to do, and that would ask a different question of Lossiemouth. That could drag Anzadam out the race. That could make it really, really strongly run. And the one horse that might benefit from that massively would be Ballyburn. It's out the back, strong pace early on, that would settle him. And you don't need to worry about stamina reserves, really. You can see if he gets home or not. It's about 14s, but you could argue that Ponyross would like that as well. And
is there a case that Ballyburn could maybe go with Brighter Days Ahead and maybe try and kind of make the run? Is that an option? Because he does have excess stamina, despite the fact we know he doesn't stay 3 miles. We know he gets 2.5 at least.
Yeah, I like the confidence boost of seeing him out the back and riding for the pieces. Because
Possibly,
I think something like that might happen. The only thing I suggest that is that I think they're going to do that with Amsterdam. I think Willie Mullins said the last day going, well, we've tried holding him up massively at Newcastle at fighting 5th, and he kind of petered out anyway. We tried it again in at Christmas time, and then when we actually let him go, you're thinking he's going to be beaten by 40, 50 lengths. He's only beaten 6.5. So maybe this time we'll just go, let's just let him go and see what he does up here. And, you know, if Brighter Days Ahead does that as well, it could be a massive, massive pace collapse in this. The big beneficiary of that would be Lossiemouth, of course, but I mean, Ballyburn could do as well. Ballyburn's top rated in this official ratings.
Yeah.
So, I mean, and this is what he might want. I know for he's checked out, a bit disappointing the stairs 2 or 3 times, but he shaped quite well when he came from the back, when he get beat by Teahupoo. Teahupoo, I think, took his form to a new level going up and trip, and I think it just kind of confirmed that he's no 3-miler, and he definitely wasn't over fences, and it just definitely stretched him, particularly even at pace tracks at Punchestown where it did.
Yeah.
And Kempton, where I think Kempton, where he lost his Gino, was, this horse needs up and trip. Probably just bumped into a kind of peak Sorgino, whereas he'd absolutely no chance either way, really. And at Kempton, where Willie Mullins usually does send his better horses a little bit light, the first time where he might actually get a strong kind of pace. He's definitely not a bang out 2-miler, but in on deep ground, which you know he can handle as well, you could maybe apply the same case for El Fabio to his chance. But
think they all go? Do you think? Like, I don't
seem to be. There doesn't seem to be an obvious reason why they wouldn't. You know, and I think it's a race, particularly with the Champion Hurdle. Now looking at it, it's a race where if you had any 150 horse, you'd take your chance in this and see where you are.
What about Ponyross? Like, again, he won.
Isn't he?
He is fascinating, but is he going to
have? Would he have won at Cheltenham if he ran there?
I think there's a case, yeah, and I think they'll maybe kick themselves in the dick.
If he ran to his mark, then he probably would have. But I mean, the indication is that he didn't, and that he might need this run. But he didn't need to run the triumph, did he? So he's an interesting unknown quantity, I would say, and I would say this race would be run to suit him. So these are classy back numbers of El Fabiola, Ballybung, Poneros, and they're all interesting to different degrees. And Casualty Lad's run really well all season.
Mm-hmm.
You know, whether it's
152, yeah.
pace or off the pace, you know, even the day he fell, you know, he's bang there and at 2.5. So a lot of these stay further. So it's hard to imagine they'll be hanging around here for a slowly run kind of trial. The match will be run at a highly different tempo to what we had at Cheltenham Trials Day last week.
If I was to ask you for the winner of this race, who would it be?
Well, after all that summation, I'd back the favourite in Lacy.
And my next question on that, because I do think Lossy Mouth
possibly
will probably...
Ballybun each way of interest. I mean,
okay.
But Poneros maybe I just can't trust El Fabio leaving at 9 when he did that, or hurdles, and it's a confidence booster. But I think he's maybe the least trustworthy. I think Amsterdam, I think he's at a price where we can take him or leave him, and I would be inclined to kind of leave him alone. And I've never been fully convinced with Brighter Days Ahead. Lossy Mouth, you can set your watch by her, you know she'll win. You know, in the last 3 outings, Brighter Days Ahead hasn't. Lossy Mouth in the last 4 has, apart from falling in this, which looked to be a little bit of an outlier, really. But yeah, the pace is going to be hot early on, and that's the thing that can catch her out slightly over 2 miles. So yeah, there's positives and negatives to all these, I think, but I just think Lossy Mouth's reliable enough that I would side with her. And Ballybun's one that's catching my each wee eye for some reason unknown.
So I held the theory last year that Lossy Mouth didn't go to the champion hurdle was because the jockey didn't think she could beat Stateman, and didn't want to come off Stateman, which I understand and was probably justified in that with how well Stateman was travelling to the last. This year, I think there was a lot of moves for the mare's hurdle because they didn't think they could beat Sergino. Those 2 obstacles aren't there now. If Lossy Mouth wins this, how bad would it be if she didn't go champion hurdle?
It looked bad for the sport in that sense. You know, it'd be disappointing. I don't think they're going to change their way. I think they're too committed down that road now. And I don't think the trainer really has made many back. I mean, Jay DeGrees is the only one that I think they could drop back and take on Voodoo. You could actually argue the champion hurdle's an easier race for Lossy Mouth than taking on Voodoo. You know, the new track, bit more stamina test. You know, and if she wins this by as comfortably as maybe the market suggests, beats Brighter Days Ahead by further, then they might be more tempted with this route. So up in the air, but the fact a long way round they've committed to, they think that she's now more naturally 2.5 miler. I think they were spooked by Kempton, where she did get outpaced and didn't have that kind of natural speed. And maybe the race to take was last year when it fell apart, but it's falling apart equally now. And it is like this, you know, it is full of. It's not a lot of natural 2 mile pace horses here.
No, there's not.
Really. And there's not a lot in the division. I mean, you've arguably got an even more unnatural one at the top of the market in the New Line now. So it's definitely not dynamic. It might even be a very late call on the day. You know, I mean, you could see this kind of soap opera developing, going on and on and on, and particularly if it's bad ground. But I think they might be inclined to go champion hurdle, just in that evidence, because it might be a good kind of test of stamina. So I don't know, and to be honest, I'd rather get this out of the way than even thinking or caring about it. In truth,
you mentioned Only by Night maybe running in the Dublin Chase. She's got a handicap hurdle mark of 125, which I think is there to be exploited, and I think there is a potential that Gavin Cromwell takes that out and she could be the one. That always goes to again, this sounds ridiculous what I'm going to say here, but do you remember a few years ago that Gordon Elliott won it with Party Central off a mark of similar, and you just thought she's too well in not to go with her? I think it could be the case here, because I think she's ridiculously well handicapped here. She's £23 lower than her chase mark. We've seen this before with Spillane Tower earlier in the season, but that's very fascinating if they do go this route.
and seen it as well with Gaelic Warrior at this meeting.
Yes, meeting of the waters as well.
Where they reverted back. There was another high-profile one that got beat. I think it might have been the same year. I'll try and find out. So was it Musselburgh where it was
Gaelic Warrior won, didn't he? Yeah,
Gaelic Warrior won, wasn't
yeah.
that? There was another one. It was like 40-45 pound difference, and then that get beat. So you can win, you can also get beat. Well, they do have a hurling mark for a reason, you know. I mean, that's what they are. So, but tend to win into threes. It's been spotted. The Fergal O'Brien horse is a really good horse. It's intended to come over, so it's a definite dangerous second favourite. Was one further down the market, another Cromwell horse. I thought Dame of Scotlandstown, 113 at the bottom, was worth a second look at that race at 20s. It usually goes to a kind of younger, unexposed horses. I think that could be one. But yeah, I'll try and go through that year and see if there was one, because I remember there was a big one. It was well punted as well in the handicap.
Okay. I've got a couple of fancies for the handicaps and the other races where we look for that. So I think in the 245, I'm really interested in Kim Rock for Joseph O'Brien. Two chase runs this season at Cheltenham where he ran pretty well in second behind the Honeyball horse that was well back last Saturday on soft ground. Didn't jump very well, came from the back and did manage to get second pretty well, got in front of a Ben Paulin horse. Finished fourth in December behind Glenn Gooley in that December handicap that Glenn Gooley obviously won. Jaguar was third and Vincenzo was running. That's looking a really good race. Again, makes a couple of jumping mistakes, but I think better ground and maybe just this kind of type of race. That was kind of, the second race was particularly good to soft, but I think this could be a good opportunity for him off a mark of 128. I actually did have a mind of maybe putting him up for the Paddy Power Plate as well, but he's also got the Novice option at the festival. And in the 427, the Mayor's Bumper, a lot of people are talking about the Thomas Cooper horse, and again, there's a couple of Willie Mullins horses. Wonderful Every Day caught my eye. I think he can draw a line over a run at Huntingdon. She is going out to about 7-1 in places, but she was very, very good last season at Punchestown. And I think obviously I would draw like the Huntingdon race was a bit of a bizarre one, and it might just be a case of she needed the run. I would really give her a mention if she does go here, but Willie seems to have Maximilian Lady going here, so it depends what happens, but that was I think he got that horse from Conor O'Farrell. Wonderful Every Day and Kim Rock are probably my two best bets of the meeting, actually, if they do go here. Have you anything you like for the Leopardstown races that we haven't mentioned?
I quite like Kim Rock. I was a bit worried about the ground. I think he might want better ground, but I do think that the fact it's the site at Cheltenham, I was kind of wondering if they're kind of working back from there, something maybe like a plate, but I thought he was kind of needing a step up and trip a little bit. I thought he was more of an Ultima type, because I definitely remember the day that he was second, things were kind of happening a little bit quickly for him. Whether that was down to speed or inexperience, I don't know, but this is a slight going up and trip. 2 mile 5.5 here will be a bit stiffer than 2 mile 4 on the old course. So I think that'll tell him where they want to go.
Yeah.
Trip wise, I think he's got a reasonably sweet chance, and his French background suggests he'd have a squeak there. Back Mersac is still a fascinating horse. I think he'd be pretty interesting if he went there. And obviously, I'm very interested to see how Zillow goes in this, because he's in there at 60.
In the Burns horse.
Well, I think that's because Charles Burns has won this 3 times, hasn't he?
Yeah.
Historically. So I think it's a race that he targets. It's a natural kind of gamble. He won quite well odds on at Punchestown, only given 7 for that. You know, he just might be kind of now just kind of going through the ranks now. I think he's short enough in a race like this, you know, in an up to 150 where there's a lot of. I mean, a Dream to Share can't jump, can he? Stormheart, I think, once further, probably mapped out. You know, I think it's more of a 2.5 miler. Bones and Fire, you know, Zillow's waited to turn that around, you know.
Ground worry you with Zillow?
No, not particularly, no. I mean, I just think he just didn't steer. I mean, I put up to County Huddle. I just think he's a non-steer, but he's got form. I mean, he's been third Punchestown heavy ground. He's pretty versatile. I just think he didn't get home at Leopardstown. You know, and he doesn't need to win here to be interested in Kerry Hurley. He just needs to kind of shape well and be fine. But I think again he's another big price who was just totally forgotten about. Mercy arguably as well, but I don't think she's as well in the weights, off 140. I think she's kind of a kind of one of those typical 5-year-olds that's stuck between a rock and a hard place for the rest of the season. Bunting's getting his act together, and I think that line of form in that race at Christmas is going to be very important. He was fourth, but he boxed on quite well. Don't be surprised if he finishes fourth or fifth again and shapes as if Coral Cup horse. He's top of the market, but I mean it's a big clue to me. Wendrock runs the previous day, he was fifth in that race. I thought it was very, very kind of significant, full of eye catchers. So it's a good race, and I'll definitely be keeping a close eye on Zillow for obvious reasons. And I think 14-16's there. I think it's equally as good price as 33 for the County Hurdle anti-post as well. So I'm definitely interested in both of them, and Wonderful every day. Yeah, I can see why people are cotting on to that one. And Celestial Tune, the favourite. Maybe it's a bit too fine, but it's been impressive the last two, not beaten much, but that's all the case, isn't it, with that? So yeah, I would probably be in the Wonderful everyday camp in that, but that would probably be because I'll be at Musselburgh and I'll be watching it in a race that I wouldn't usually be bothered with at all.
Okay, so before we wrap up, Callum, what are our kind of best bets? We'll maybe have a lucky 15 between us. We'll maybe go 2 each. Which were kind of best bets for the Dublin Racing Festival to hopefully we're on here next week talking about 4 winners.
Kopek the Born, the Irish Arkle.
Okay, well, I'm going to just stick with the Willie Mullinjard and go for Magsborough in the Dublin Chase.
Zillow in the handicap then.
Okay, and I'll go for probably my nap of the meeting actually, and it's not very often, Callum, you see me have an 8-1 nap, but Kim Rock, I think, in the handicap chase is a real chance. So yeah, I mean, it's going to be an interesting week again. On weather watch, keep an eye on declarations as we get them, and hopefully, Callum, we're luck's in, and this is usually is very informative. Like, again, the problem you've got with this usually is there's quite a lot of short price favourites. Now, there's a possibility that will be the case, but it's looking a competitive weekend of racing, and that's
I mean, only kind of Final Demand seems to be the one that's really profitable short, but probably within good reason as well. But I mean, it's not as if Willie Mullins has kind of obvious wins here, and particularly novices. So there's a lot of kind of usually in the day you kind of see a lot of kind of 8-13s, 46s. You've only really got 2 of them. Narciso has and
Final Demand.
And Final Demand. So a lot of them are kind of like evens, 11-10s, 5-4s, bit to prove, 6-4s, and things like that. Lossymouth evens. So a lot of big races that are open to debate. Mars were 5-4. So there's definitely scope involved. The handicaps look really competitive as well. We know final declarations could be important. Ground, see how much is it going to improve, and it's obviously some very interesting kind of jockey booking holes as well to fill if all the entries are kind of mapped out. But yeah, it's always a wonderful weekend. It's a very kind of, it's a lovely balance with other meetings around it as well. And yeah, it's going to be very, very significant in pretty much every single race, apart from really Stairs Hurdle, because there's no 3 mile there.
Nothing there, but Callum, all I can do is thank you very much and wish all the best for the week, punting-wise.
Yep, best of luck anyone who's getting involved.
Yes, thank you very much to everyone that's tuned in. We'll be back next week. We will obviously review the Dublin Racing Festival and a look at other meetings. Thank you very much. We'll see you all soon.